Greetings, this is Dr. T, Dr. Trent Freeman. I go by Dr. T. This is a little series that we're doing. There's going to be 5 of these little videos. It'll be about 10 minutes apiece, and each one will be about the different testing. We did a general video. If you haven't seen that one, that's in the testing section on our YouTube channel, Tucson Functional Medicine, that generally talked about all 5 of the tests that we run. Now we're doing videos on each one of them. And this one is about the adrenal cortisol stress test. I'm going to talk about that one in specificity. So if it's your first time here, subscribe to the channel, and then you can click on that little bell thing next to it, and that will send you a message every time that we upload something. The other thing is, on our functional medicine, Tucson Functional Medicine website, there are 2 things. One is under About Us, there is one that says Dr. T's teaching schedule. And we teach a webinar every single month. We've got them all scheduled for the rest of the month, or the rest of the year. And right under each one of them is a little link that you can go register for it. I even tell people, even if you can't see it at the time that it's scheduled, register for it. We always send you a link for the replay after it's over. So I sign up for lots of webinars I never actually go to at the time they're scheduled, but they send me the replays and then I can watch it when time allows for me. Number 2 is there is a section on our website. It's one of the drop downs. I don't remember which one it is, but it says book an appointment with Dr. T. And we have a free 30-minute, what we call a discovery appointment. And that allows you, we can do it through Zoom, just like how we made this to start with, or we can do it in the office if you live in Tucson, whatever works the best for you. Basically now with telemed, we have been using it for a long time. We don't really have a problem with your location. We have patients all over the United States, patients all over the world. So we're in the time of the coronavirus right now. I don't know when you're watching this, but telemed is something the functional medicine world has been using for a long time. The medical world really hasn't up until recently, but on the news, they're talking about telemed and all that kind of stuff. Well, we can see patients anywhere in the world, actually, and we use Zoom is the one that we use. There are several different programs that people can use, but we use Zoom, and we can schedule times where we can talk over the computer instead of being in the same office together. And you can get the type of care, the type of health care that you deserve no matter where you live. So you do not have to live in Tucson to be our patient. So here we go. So with 60% of Americans having a chronic disease, people are wasting more and more time in doctors' waiting rooms. Tucson Functional Medicine offers health programs that get to the cause of your health issue. So you can spend less time in waiting rooms and more time enjoying the quality of life that you deserve. So 60% of Americans, and the number may even be higher because this was done a few years ago, 60% of Americans have a chronic disease, 40% have 2 or more. They say the nation is spending $3.3 trillion every year on healthcare costs. This came from the CDC, this little graphic. Actually, it's $4.7 trillion now. So the amount of Americans that have chronic disease may even be higher. So that's what separates traditional medicine from functional medicine. Is traditional medicine is looking at disease. Functional medicine is looking at the cause of the disease or the cause of whatever the health condition is. You solve the cause, you get a better quality of life. So we need both models. We just need a new model if 60% of us have chronic disease. We need a new model for the chronic disease. Well, one of the tests that we run to tell us about this is an adrenal cortisol test, okay? And we're gonna talk about that one today. So we approach the body from a 3-body system. We approach it from the neuroendocrine system, neuro being brain, endocrine is like your pituitary organ, and they tell everything else how to do its job. So we're gonna talk about the adrenals today, and so that is actually called the HPA axis. And we're gonna talk about that here in just a minute. I got another slide. But once we deal with the neuroendocrine system, then we move to the GI system and then the detox system. And that's the way that the body breaks down, and that's the way we deal with the body about healing, okay? So testing is just the body's way of telling us what's going on. You and your body know more about you and your body than I can ever know. So one of the secrets of functional medicine is we listen to you. We take the time to sit and listen to you because nobody knows you as well as you. And we would be a fool not to listen to you. Well, one of the other ways that it really gives us an insight into what is going on is the body telling us what's going on. The body's not going to lie to us. The body just tells us what's going on with whatever test we were asking, and then it gives us the answer, and then we deal with whatever it tells us with this. So today we're going to talk about the adrenals. So what tests do we run at Tucson Functional Medicine? Most functional medicine doctors use these tests. They might use some different ones, but most of them, these are the core tests that they use. The adrenal cortisol stress test, that's the one we're going to talk about today. We have another video that will be up on the website if it's not, or up on the YouTube channel if it's not there right now, one on the SIBO, one on the GI map, one on the organic acids test, and one on the CBC. But this one is about the adrenal cortisol stress test. So this is actually called the HPA axis, and this is why we start with the neuroendocrine system. The H stands for the hypothalamus, which is the brain, which is the neuro. The P stands for the pituitary, which is the endocrine system. So the brain tells the pituitary what to tell the adrenals to do. This is why we start with the neuroendocrine system, because if you do not start with the system that tells everything else how to do its job, how can you ever get any lasting results with whatever's going on in your body? So HPA axis, the hypothalamus tells the pituitary what to tell the adrenals to do. What do you think the thyroid's called? HPT axis. The hypothalamus tells the pituitary what to tell the thyroid to do. But today's purpose is we're going to look at the adrenal test, okay? So the public basically calls this adrenal exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, all this kind of stuff. But basically, this is what happens. When we have stress in our life, our adrenal glands, our cortisol and our DHEA should both rise to deal with the stress. And then once the stress is over, it goes back down to normal. And that's how our body's built. That's how we were built to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. But the deal with the saber-toothed tiger is it was a very short period of time, because I either got away or I got eaten and it was over. So it was, a very short period of time. But what happens is if we stay under stress, and we're going to show in a couple of minutes, we're going to show things that cause us to have stress, our cortisol and our DHEA go up, but they stay up. And so the first level, we call it stage 1, when the adrenals are breaking down based upon chronic stress, is my cortisol stays high, but my DHEA falls. So when we see the test, if we see a high cortisol with a low DHEA, this is stage 1. Now, if it stays like this, sometimes this can take months, years. Now the cortisol starts to fall. And so stage 2, usually we'll find that where the cortisol is more in the normal range, but we know it's not normal because the DHEA is still low. And as that stress continues for a longer period of time, again, months, sometimes years, what happens here is now the stage 3, my cortisol is low and my DHEA is low. So these are the 3 stages of adrenal issues. Normal, they both rise. Stress is over, they both go back down to normal. They can stay up, DHEA falls, cortisol stays high, stage 1. Cortisol starts to fall, now it's in the normal, but DHEA is still low, stage 2. Low cortisol, low DHEA, that's stage 3. These are the people that walking up a flight of stairs, they're tired, right? Exercise is not even in the equation for these people. That's how tired they are. So if we can boil this all down, stress. When we're stressed, we sacrifice our brain chemicals, our sex hormones, our thyroid, our digestion, and our detoxification system. Why? Because if I'm worried about survival, I don't care about any of those other things, because if I die, digestion doesn't matter, my thyroid doesn't matter, sex doesn't matter, my brain doesn't. So all of these things are sacrificed for survival, and that's stress. So when we think about stress, what do we think about? The saber-toothed tiger, right? There it is, it's in front of me. But we have repackaged our saber-toothed tiger now. So we're not getting chased by saber-toothed tigers anymore, but we have lots of modern day saber-toothed tigers. So it's harassment, stress, mortgages, deadlines, conflict, debt, bullying, coronavirus, anxiety, taxes, business crisis, poor leadership, right? And so what we have done is created all of these stresses that most people are stressed all the time. It's become such a normal part of our life that most people tell me, I'm not stressed, because we have learned to adapt to it. But the damage is still going on inside our body when we are stressed. The adrenal test is one that shows us where our body is in reacting to the stress. So this is the test, and we have two parts to it. This is the cortisol part. And so that green bar in the center is where we want the cortisol to be. And cortisol, this is an actual saliva test. They're testing the actual cortisol in your saliva at different times throughout the day to see how your body is responding at 8 o'clock in the morning, at noon, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at midnight. One of the big things that we'll find is people say, man, I need a nap every afternoon at 3 or 4 o'clock. Well, that's probably because they don't have enough cortisol at that period of time. And you can really get a read on how people are reacting to stress at different times during the day. So in this particular example, our cortisol is the blue line with the boxes, and our cortisol at 8 a.m. is low. So what does that mean? These are the people that, you know, have to hit the snooze alarm 75 times before they get out of bed, right? They slept, but they don't feel like they're slept. They're waking up tired. At noon, it's barely in the normal side. It's way at the bottom. So what does that mean? They're tired at noon. I need to go get lunch, and I need to eat a Snickers bar or something like that so I can get my energy going. 4 p.m. in the afternoon on this particular example, it's better, right? So what that says is I got good energy in the afternoon, more than likely. Sometimes patients don't actually respond the way we see these numbers. They don't actually feel that way. But at midnight, look at this. Now they have too much cortisol. And so what does that mean? These are people that can't get back to sleep if they wake up, or they sleep, but they wake up in the morning and it's not restful sleep, because you shouldn't be producing a lot of cortisol in the middle of the night. Cortisol is what we need to live life and do things and respond to stress. And that we're supposed to be sleeping. And in this particular example, the cortisol is too high. So this is the second part of the test, which is DHEA. And so in this particular example, you can see right here, this green green square here is where we want it to be. And the adult reference range is from 3 to 10 with the DHEA level. And this particular example, the person has a 3. So it's barely in that normal range. So what do we have? If you take low cortisol, because 3, I mean, it can go lower than 3, but 3 is low. We don't want 3. And you go back to where the cortisol level is. It's low at AM, it's low at noon, it's high at midnight. So we would probably say this person was a stage 2, because we have low DHEA, sorry. And in the morning, we got low cortisol. And in the afternoon, we got low cortisol, but by 4, it's kind of normal, but then in the midnight, it's going up. So we have all this fluctuation going on during the day. But the DHEA is the other part of the equation. So remember, DHEA and cortisol should both rise to deal with stress, and then they should both go back to normal when the stress is over. This is the biochemistry that goes on, and we're not here to really talk about this, but it's called pregnenolone steal. Another thing is sometimes people call it cortisol steal. I've seen it written up like that. But what we're actually doing is we're taking this thing called pregnenolone and we're shunting it over here because we can take progesterone and make more cortisol. We got to keep making more cortisol. Why? Because my saber-tooth tiger is right in front of me all the time, right? Whether it be the COVID-19 or taxes or the government or my job, and my boss is a crazy. So I'm making this cortisol, and I keep making it and keep making it and keep making it. And this is how the system goes on. It's not supposed to be doing this. This red arrow right here, creating progesterone down to cortisol, shouldn't be happening. The only reason that that is happening is because I have a saber-tooth tiger in front of me all the time. So that's basically what the adrenal cortisol test actually tells us about you and the way that you are responding to stress. And remember, when we're stressed, we sacrifice most other systems in our body because the body prioritizes survival above the normal function. So I'm in the fight or flight, which is called the sympathetic response system, or I'm in the resting and digesting, which is called the parasympathetic. And what should be happening in our life is we should be in the resting and digesting most of the day. And the only time that I am in the fight or flight is when something happens. I'm driving down the road and somebody steps off the curb into my lane, and I got to get on that brake to get stopped so I don't run over that person. That's a fight or flight response. The problem in America is we are spending almost all of our time in the fight or flight. We're spending very little time in the resting and digesting. So I have people all the time, they tell me, I'm not stressed. I know I'm not stressed, but yet we run this test and the body is saying you're stressed, even though you don't think you're stressed. And the reason we don't think we're stressed is because this has become normal for us. So hopefully that helped you understand a little bit about what was going on in the adrenal test.